Hi, I'm Ryan Davis.
And I'm Kiernan Schmidt.
And this is Out of Office, a travel podcast.
This seat taken?
Hey, Kiernan.
Hello, Ryan.
How are you?
You know, I'm feeling good. Just got back from the trip to New York with the kids. I'm just bubbling over with love for the Big Apple. You know, we were talking about those nostalgia vibes we get. I mean, you know, every restaurant I loved was put out of business by COVID, but I still feel at home in New York.
Is Charlie becoming a New Yorker?
I have to say, I kind of conceived that visiting New York with a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old would be very hard because, you know, just the crowds and the smells and, you know, it's like, don't touch that, don't smell that, don't talk to that person.
Children live in New York, though.
They do. Yeah. But but, you know, I think the only people that have children are the like billionaires and, you know, Tina Fey has observed that usually it's one child and their best friend is the doorman.
Yes, that is the New York childhood that I envision.
But what I have actually found is that New York is such a sensory overload that is what kids want. Like kids always want new and interesting things, and they don't want to be bored. And they're looking and they're smelling and they're talking, and New York delivers that in spades. So you know, you put them on a subway for an hour, they're in heaven.
Yeah, I mean, the subway is a good place to see all of the world, you know.
It's very funny. We actually, we'll do a future episode about like visiting New York with kids. But and today's topic, by the way, is going to be Bronx Zoo. So this was maybe the big the big tentpole attraction I wanted to be sure we had hit because it had been such a long time since I had been to the Bronx Zoo. And we had such a great time there. And I was such an enthusiast. I was like, I want to do this episode right away. But on the drive out, do you know the Little Red Lighthouse and the Great Gray Bridge? It's like a classic old children's book.
I do not know it. No.
So it was published in 1942, and it's the story of this little red lighthouse that is it's right on the Hudson, and it's directly under today the George Washington Bridge. And this was like this teeny lighthouse that would warn boats going up and down the river, don't come over here because you're too close to the shore. And then they built the George Washington Bridge above it. And they've kept the lighthouse there. And it's the story of the lighthouse being threatened by the giant bridge. And then they work together, yada, yada. It's a fun story. And it's fun to see this little red lighthouse. And I had gone there, you know, when I lived in New York, and we read this book to the kids. So I was like, let's go visit the Little Red Lighthouse. So Catherine finds this like travel blog to tell us how to get there. And it's describing this path that's like you go under 3 highways and then you're going to go on this urine soaked path that's like an encampment underneath the highway. And sure enough, it was like the most neglected area of New York. I feel like the government has not been in to clean up this area in like 10 years. It is, you know, we're trying to lead the kids to this like charming childhood lighthouse to show them that it's a real thing right under the bridge, which is so cool, right on the shore. And we're literally saying like, don't touch anything on the sidewalk because there's like discarded needles all over the place and blown out street lights. It was really quite the scene, but it was a beautiful day and sunny. So I didn't feel threatened or anything. It was fine, but just, you know, it's just another thing to add to Zoran Mondamni's to-do list.
I always think that the needles on the ground in a beautiful day, they sparkle. You know, that gives New York some of its shine.
Yeah, it's a great viewpoint. You're always looking on the bright side.
Just wear shoes. Always wear shoes in New York. That's important.
That I never stepped out of my house in sandals or flip-flops. Just the dirt accumulation on your feet is just incredible.
And you look down and there's somehow a rat just nibbling on your toe. You know, these people are crazy.
I mean, let's not get into the wildlife yet. The Bronx Zoo episode.
Yes.
So that's how I'm feeling. How are you, Ryan? And let's just jump right into the Judy alert, the feature where we reassure Ryan's mother. You know, Ryan reaches out to Judy, 2-3 times a year to give an update on where she is. And she worries. Oh, how she worries that Ryan's putting himself in dangerous situations. And so, Ryan, where are you right now?
I am safely in my apartment in Bogota.
You've been staying close to Bogota lately.
I have been.
It's nice. I feel settled, and I'm sure Judy does too.
Yeah, well, you know what though? They just
Oh,
started opening up flights to Caracas out of the states, and
are you going
I
to
have
Caracas?
if I go to Caracas, I'll only talk about it afterwards. But
Are you actually considering Caracas?
this might be the moment, Kiernan. This might be the moment.
I think this is a bad idea.
It might be a bad idea.
I think this is a very bad
Or
idea.
it might be a really good episode about what happens to me in Caracas.
Oh, why don't you? You know what? Why don't you also just do a connector? Head over to Tehran while you're at it.
I don't think that's the same thing. But that war is over, as you know. We won it, and everything's great. So.
I don't, Ryan. We are still getting negative reviews from conservatives, even though we are a Big Tent podcast. Hey, did you see? Speaking of, Ryan and I always describe ourselves as Romney Democrats. We're middle of the roaders. We're classic Obama guys, which at this point is so. I mean, that's just a different era. And so we describe ourselves as Romney Democrats. And right, did you see Romney's coming? The great Mitt Romney is coming to give a speech at Harvard Business School at commencement.
Oh, are you going to get to see it?
I didn't even think about it. It's not like a ticket that I seek out, but I am a Mitt fan.
Oh, we got to get Mitt on the show. Do we
have a travel? He could probably do a tour of Salt Lake City for us. You may remember when I toured the Central Mormon complex in Salt Lake City. My tour guide was a Romney who's like dad is Mitt's cousin.
But they don't let you into that temple, right? You can just see the outside.
You don't get to go, but they have they have an outside plaza area, and they do have like an internal area they let you in. But no, you don't go into the sanctuary proper.
Really funny when I was in Barcelona recently and did the Sagrada again. Sagrada, yeah. There were this Mormon couple, and they were talking about Salt Lake City, and I'm like, oh, I've always wanted to go and tour the Mormon temple. Like, you can't do it. I thought it was very.
You're not
very
allowed.
funny.
You're not allowed. I wonder. It's only a matter of time. Have you seen the? Boy, these people who hate our A block where we just chat, they're really going to hate this because it's not travel related. But have you been getting served up the latest influencer trend where they try to run as far as they can into a Scientology complex?
Yes. It's interesting.
They don't really get to see anything interesting though. It's only hallways.
No.
I'd be fascinated if they made it into some sort of sanctuary.
I mean, the most interesting thing is, in every single Scientology church is an office that's waiting for L. Ron Hubbard to return. So L. Ron Hubbard has offices.
Is that a real thing?
That's a real thing. He's got a WeWork all around the world ready for him to go.
Ryan, that sounds like I was actually reading about L. Ron Hubbard the other day, and I have to say, it really reminded me of you in a lot of ways, Ryan, and not your best traits, I have to admit.
I think I would have been a pretty good preacher, I have to say.
I mean, I'm sure both you and I occasionally think, boy, wouldn't it have been easier to be a priest? You get your housing, you get your flock, you don't have to worry about what you wear. It's just black and a collar every day.
What would your Pope name be?
Ooh, that's a good question. I mean, I'd like Patrick, Pope Patrick. I love alliterative names.
Yeah, Pope Patrick is
Pope
nice.
Patrick. Plus, Pope Patrick's like your bud. I mean, Pope Patrick, that actually feels kind of like Leo's vibes. You feel like you could sit down and hang out with Pope Patrick.
Yeah, you could definitely hang out with Leo. He's another podcast guest we got to get on.
Pope Leo's Guide to Visiting the Sistine Chapel.
No, it's talk about Pope Leo Chicago. Is really the episode.
That surely is an episode we're going to have to do, because I think as people dig into his biography further, we'll actually get places you can visit, and we know they just recently purchased his childhood home, and I'm sure that's going to be preserved.
Chicago and Peru. That would be an interesting episode.
I like it very much.
Well, I think we've dawdled enough. We should head over to the Bronx Zoo.
Oh, sorry, the elephant came out early. Tell the cabin crew.
Flight attendants, prepare for takeoff, please.
All right, Ryan, we're here. We're talking Bronx Zoo. Were you impressed by my elephant?
It came across as sort of a screech on the microphone. So
okay. Well, maybe I'll cut it out, in which case this will be confusing to folks. Well, Ryan, zoos. I mean, we're 225 episodes into this baby, and we have not dug deep into zoos.
No, we haven't. I guess zoos are pretty controversial. Like
Zoos are
these
controversial
days.
for sure. I'm curious, what is your? We don't have to. This is not a philosophy of zoos episode, though. I would like to do that at some point, and I'd love to bring a guest or two on to talk sense to us about the positive sides and the negative sides. I think, like anything, my take is I think zoos are complex, and I have complex feelings about them. I do think the conservation work of zoos and the scientific work that goes on at zoos is very valuable. And I have to say, I greatly enjoyed my visit to the Bronx Zoo. So that's where I am on zoos right now. However, when I go to a city and they have a zoo, it is not a top attraction for me to get to.
Yeah, I the last zoo that I went to was in Guadalajara, and it was amazing. It was huge. I was there for the whole day. I had a great time. It was like half zoo, half like a safari ride.
Interesting.
So I understand that zoos are problematic, but I think I have so many memories as a kid of going to the zoo, my little zoo in Salisbury, and just having a great time. So it'd be tough to get rid of zoos entirely, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And how about the Bronx Zoo? Have you been to the Bronx Zoo?
I have been to the Bronx Zoo one time. It was one of my COVID outings.
Of course, a great place to go for COVID.
Yeah,
well, to avoid COVID, I should say.
yeah. So
unless you were, dining on their pangolin or something.
Well, I have this memory because it was cold, so it must have been like early COVID, and the giraffes had to be inside. And the giraffes inside were in this like big gymnasium, and then the walls of the gymnasium are painted like the African what do you call it, the landscape there, painted like the desert in Africa, and it's
interesting. Okay,
this sort of mural, and the giraffes, they just stood by the wall and were just licking the fake trees on the mural, and
I don't like that.
It was one of the most depressing things I've ever
that
seen.
was at the Bronx Zoo. You saw that?
Yeah. When they have to take the giraffes
when they're inside.
Yeah.
So we did see them inside because it was a cool day. But they had plentiful feed buckets, so they were mostly concentrated on that. I did think the enclosure inside looked a little bit small.
Yeah, and it was grim. But overall, I thought the zoo was cool. But the memory of the giraffes licking the fake tree on the mural.
That's not a positive place to start it off. Well, just to give a little of the kind of the fast facts background on the Bronx Zoo. I mean, it is. First of all, it's just incredible that this enormous zoo is inside New York City. It's 265 acres large, which is pretty darn big. And I have to say, it was hard to cover. We spent about 4 hours there, and we probably saw, I would say, about half of what there was it could certainly substantiate out a full day there. And I actually would recommend a full day if you're going, especially with older kids. 4-year-olds, you have to get out after about 4 hours, I would say. But at 6, 7, 8, I would recommend try to book the whole day. And that really gets the most out of your ticket, because it's not a super cheap place, though. It's affordable. I mean, for the 4 of us, I think with parking, it was about $140 to go for the day. But, it's your entire day's entertainment. That's like half one Broadway show ticket at this point.
Yeah, that's not bad for such a long day of entertainment. And I imagine you really get your steps in.
I'm not one who measures my steps, but yeah, we were very tired by the end of the day. We did a lot of walking, and it is to your point about why it was a good space for visiting with COVID, just during the COVID period. There's a lot of outdoor activities to see, but plenty of internal houses where there's like a bird house and a reptile house. There's a Madagascar exhibit that's all inside. So there's a lot of environments that they create inside areas. So a fair amount of it still has to be inside. Did you go inside during that COVID visit?
Yeah, we went inside because it was like it was still kind of like the winter, so a lot of the stuff was inside. But I do remember doing a very cold nature trek, which is like this like It's like wooden like bridges built
we
around.
didn't do that, but I saw people doing that. You were on like the wooden trail platforms thing.
Exactly.
That seemed a little kitschy to me. I'm sure the kids would have liked it, but we didn't have time. We had animals to see.
That's fair. You can see them from different avenues there, but so no, it is a huge zoo, and I lived in New York for 24 years, and I only went once, which is because it's kind of like far away. You know?
It is certainly far away. And this is another recommendation if you're thinking to visit is we drove down to New York. So I had my car in Brooklyn, and it was absolutely the right decision to drive to the Bronx Zoo. There's 2 major parking lots. The day we were there, plentiful parking. There are 2 ways to get there on the subway, but as Ryan is saying, you're in for a long journey there. So especially if you're going with children, it's gonna be a while. So you could take either the 2 or the 5 subway to the following stops: West Farm Square, East Tremont, or East 180th Street, Pelham Parkway Station. These are the stops you could get to, and then of course from there you have to get to the zoo itself, which is not super far. But I have to say I recommend driving or Ubering, even with traffic around New York, because it is 265 acres. It's far. I mean, it is easy to get to from major thoroughfares, but like it is its own thing up there in the Bronx and has a large space of its own. It has 11,000 animals in total on it, Ryan. So this is the part of the zoo that I think is such a positive experience for kids. Is my kids are just getting to the point where they're starting to understand the diversity of the animal world. You know, that it's not just pigs and chickens and what they see on farm visits, that there's this enormous world of beautiful creatures out there. At Charlie's school, they did a huge bird unit, and he became very obsessed with birds of prey. And, this is where they could come and really let their imaginations go. They see the vibrant colors of these animals. They learn about what makes them special, how they've evolved in strange and interesting ways, and what needs to be done to protect them.
Do they have those cool indoor bird houses you go into and there's birds flying all around?
Most of them. Okay, so I personally feel very freaked out when there's not like some sort of barrier, but there's a mix of no barrier and sort of a net barrier.
Yeah.
And the heat changes and the type of foliage changes within them. But going into the world of birds, I think they call it sort of the bird house, was an awesome experience. I mean, they were so beautiful, and everything from toucans to just these enormous vultures. And just every bird you could imagine is in there. And many of them are in there sort of mixed. So you can do kind of bird watching, trying to match to, oh, do you see this one? Do you see this one? Oh, we haven't seen this one. Let's try to spot it in the corner there. These are all species you'd never be able to see without a 20-hour flight across the world.
Yeah. You'd have to come down to Colombia, the most bird diverse country in the world.
Is it what, from an animal perspective?
From a bird diversity perspective.
Bird diversity perspective. Yeah. Are you doing a lot of birding down there?
It's hard not to, because there's just birds everywhere. I do feel like the older I get, the more I'm like a birder. Like I just see a bird and just
there is some natural instinct that kicks in once you get over 40 that you do start to look at birds with more respect. Speaking of which, just today a bird pooped on my phone.
Was it a beautiful, like, exotic bird?
I didn't know. I didn't see the bird that did it. It wasn't at the Bronx Zoo, so probably. By the way, one of those exotic birds had like gotten past the net and was like on the area. And my instinct, my reaction is as if like this is a dinosaur. This is a violent dinosaur. They're gonna peck my children's eyes out, grab them, and like keep them away. So I give wide berth to birds.
I don't feel like the birds are the dangerous animals at the zoo typically.
Well, and we're going to get to some interesting dangerous animals. By the way. So
I like dangerous animals.
I guess a big part this conservation message that the zoo certainly pushes as you visit all around. It does go back to its founding. So it opened to the public in 1899, and there's a historic figure who I want to mention here, and he's got a tie to my favorite president and yours, Theodore Roosevelt. So that's the most important thing here is. The the Bronx Zoo director from 1896 on, as they were sort of building it and conceiving it, was a man named William Temple Hornaday, which Hornaday that's almost like a roll doll name for a zookeeper. I feel like, it makes me think of hornbills, of rhino horns. I love William Temple Hornaday. And he was actually a taxidermist at the Smithsonian when he was approached to come and take on the creation of the Bronx Zoo. And it really was conceived as a different type of zoo where they didn't want to put everything in bare metal cages and cement boxes, but they wanted to try to recreate the landscape, the natural landscape that animals were being imported from. And a big driving force for him in the early days was he saw that the American bison out west was dying off because of overhunting. And he was a hunter. And this is where it crosses with Theodore Roosevelt. A lot of the great early conservationists were hunters, which seems like such an odd dichotomy to us today. But yet, they were the ones who spent enormous amounts of time in nature. And even though they were at fault for some of these species heading towards extinction, they also were some of the most passionate about preserving species and nature once they came to discover what was happening. And sure enough, Hornaday and TR were both part of a group that was founded in 1905 called the American Bison Society. And I just want to note, TR was the honorary president, which, I mean, that's the thing to be. You want to be an honorary president.
Yeah. I love this era of hunting that was so tied to conservation, because I feel like that is not the vibe you get these days.
No, that's right. And this American Bison Society worked with the Bronx Zoo in order to breed bison and then reintroduce them to the West. And in 1907, they successfully shipped and let loose 15 bison into a game preserve in Oklahoma. And this is the first reintroduction in North America of animals that were endangered, and then a breeding program, and then sent back out. And it's considered a great success, a historic success. And that was something that the Bronx Zoo was a great leader in. And so, we can thank them for the bison that we still have today.
Thanks, guys.
And they have a lot of different stories about saving endangered toads, which again, like that just recently, it was there's a toad called a Cahansi spray toad that was virtually wiped out in 2009. It's because it lives in Tanzania, and there was this big dam that was being built that was destroying their habitat. And the Bronx Zoo was a leader in breeding them in captivity and reintroducing them. And they're currently working on a number of species heading to extinction to try to recreate these successes.
That's interesting. That I don't know anything about their current work.
We should reach out to the zoo, get somebody. Yeah. I tell you what, if you'd be interested in that, shoot us a note at outofoffice@gmail.com and let us know. Again, I'm kind of hot on zoos right now. So if there's a zoo topic you want, we can get great guests on the show, and I'd be interested in digging in. I agree with you, Ryan. The current conservation work would be really interesting to hear about.
Definitely.
So I'm just going to give a quick review of kind of the best animals that we saw. And a couple of these just really left me awestruck because I wasn't expecting them. The incredible birdhouse I've already mentioned. The red panda. Do you know what a red panda is?
I do. I only from Twitter, when those nature accounts share rare animals.
If you're expecting a giant panda that it's red, that is not the case. And I didn't realize that. I had always just assumed that red pandas and traditional big pandas are related, but they're not. Red pandas are almost like the size of a raccoon. And Disney did a big movie, Going Red, I think it was called, that was all about a little girl that could turn into a red panda.
Oh, that's cute.
So I feel like that put it back in the zeitgeist. That's why you're seeing it all on social media.
Well, it's good for the red panda.
As you already pointed out, you've got great giraffes to see. They have a whole sort of African savanna area. It was a bit cool, so they were in their inside enclosure, but I was thankful that was still open to the public because not all animals who they need to move indoors during cool New York weather are viewable, but the giraffes are, I'm happy to say. And, you know, when you're standing in front of giraffes, and they were very close, you do look at that animal and go, what is this? Like, this thing doesn't look like it should work.
Those are my favorite animals.
So we had the giraffes. We spent a lot of time in the world of reptiles, learned about a lot of very interesting skinks. I don't know if you know about a skink. A skink is an interesting little lizard. And the one that I liked the most, it has evolved so that its head and the end of its tail are exactly the same sort of bulbous shape, so that when they're being attacked, a predator doesn't know, are you getting the tail or are you getting the head?
That is funny.
Evolution does some amazing things.
It does.
We got tigers, we got hyenas. There was a Komodo dragon that we did not have time to see. I regret to say, and I actually suspect that that's one you might not be able to see during the cold weather. It was cool. It was like 50s when we were there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
We made a special time to go to the birds of prey. I think the snowy owls were what left the greatest impression. We weren't seeking them out, but we happened upon 2 white rhinos. The massive scale of these rhinos, just chomping on huge amounts of hay, really caught me off guard. We just kind of turned a corner and voila, there they were. And truly awestruck is how I would describe it. And I would say that seeing the giraffes, seeing the rhinos, these are things that made me think, I do regret not going on a safari, like an African safari, prior to having children. That is one far flight, expensive trip that we didn't fit in. And it will be a top priority when we get back to a state of sort of parental independence.
Well, when the kids are old enough, a safari might be awesome if it's contained.
Yeah, I worry about anybody under the age of 25 being near, apex predators.
Yeah, fair enough.
And I will say that the 2 spots that left the biggest impression on me, one was the gorilla forest, and this is an enclosure they have that is quite large, and they have these tunnels that bring you right up close to where a lot of these gorillas are. And there's a very clear alpha silver-backed gorilla in there. And we were observing them for maybe about 20 minutes. And this alpha, a few times a day, has to knock around the beta males to remind them that he is in charge. And we saw just what strikes, everyday commoners like us as quite violent shows with hitting and teeth bared and gnashing. And it seemed like maybe one of the beta males was putting up a little bit more of a fight than usual on this day. And they were running full speed in this enclosure, and it was like something on the National Geographic channel. It was quite something to see, and really you're you're feet away from it, and you're like, boy, I hope that this glass holds up should somebody head this way.
Did you hear about this? These 2 different chimp groups in Uganda that are in the middle of this big war?
Yeah. I have seen a bit on this, but I have not dug in. So if you know a bit more, please tell.
Yeah, it's in this national park in Uganda, and there are these 2 groups of chimps that are loosely related, and nobody really knows for sure what starts these wars, but they're just beating the crap out of each other, and there are a lot of chimps that are dying. And apparently this happens every couple generations. There's a power struggle. So chimps are complicated, How do they
kill each other?
I mean, it looks like they just, they brute force. I mean, they're strong animals. They fight with their hands.
Boy, blunt trauma.
Yeah, it's blunt trauma. I mean, they're not using weapons. Maybe the U.S. will arm one half of them if we figure out, who we support. But for now,
Oh, these are dark. That's a dark joke.
Sorry.
All right. And the final just animal profile that I would recommend to you. We were losing steam. We were talking about heading back to the car, which was a hike from where we were, and we passed by a house that's completely dedicated to the wildlife of Madagascar. And we almost passed it by, but then it was like, we'll just go through quickly. And I'm so glad we took the time because Madagascar has incredible, very interesting animals. And we got to see a variety of lemurs, which were really amazing to see. And they had kind of all the flexibility and tree navigation skills that we associate with lots of monkey species, but also those really creepy, weirdly human-like giant eyes staring back at you. And, again, you're just feet from them. And there's something just so, I don't want to anthropomorphize anything, but there's something very intelligent about a lemur's face that is kind of freaky to see.
Yeah, lemurs do have like a intelligent vibe, and so do those little spider monkeys too. They really seem like they know what's going on.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
Yeah.
So I guess, do you have are there any questions you have about wildlife? I covered the big ones
So there were there no hippos?
I don't believe they have hippos. I know they used to have pygmy hippos, but I don't think that they have hippos. We can do a recalculation.
There's like a whole hippo fiasco in Colombia right now. Back in the 80s, Pablo Escobar built a zoo.
Sure. Oh, yeah, of course.
And he built this zoo, and believe it or not, he didn't approach it in the most scientific way.
Yeah.
And when he died and his empire collapsed, the zoo just went into a state of disrepair. And all these hippos just started mating. And so now there are hundreds of hippos in this like rural Colombian area that are just running free and causing havoc like all around, and people are taking the baby hippos and making them pets, and there's a whole thing on TikTok. So now the government has to basically put an end to these hippos because they're not meant to be
God, no, they're incredibly dangerous.
Yeah, so the whole country is like trying to figure out what to do about these hippos that are hungry and large and inbred and have all sorts of weird conditions because of the inbreeding, and it's a real like zoo tragedy. I think people who start zoos
sort of the opposite of a zootopia.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And would you describe them as hungry hippos?
Well, there's a movie coming out right now based on hungry hippos. Believe it or not,
of course,
called Hippos, and there's been a lot of jokes on Colombian Twitter that this is a take on what's happening. But I don't think anyone's been eaten yet. But it is funny on TikTok to see little kids playing with wild hippos in their backyards. Their parents should be careful.
Okay, so and by the way, I according to the website, it does not appear to me. I'm confirming that there does not appear to be hippos.
Well, I know where they can get a lot of hippos if they need them. There's plenty of hippos down here.
I assume that they probably all suffer from a great drug addiction as well, given that they're where they're from. All right, last, just two practical tips I want to give you. One is, three. I'll give you three practical tips. One is sunscreen. Bring sunscreen. You do a lot of walking outdoors. Some of the areas are open, so you definitely want to be cover that. The second is sneakers. A ton of walking is going to be done. You will be on your feet for most of the day. And three, if there's going to be adverse weather, definitely bring raincoats, boots, whatever you have to do to stay dry, because you don't want to get there and have a shower cut off half of what you can see there. And I'm going to give my final recommendation for something that I found very charming, which is, like any cultural institution, the base ticket gets you into a bunch of stuff, but then there's special experiences you can pay for. We didn't pay for any of that, but I was very pleased to see that the carousel that they have when you want a 10-minute break from the animals comes included with your ticket, and it is the only carousel that they claim, the only carousel in the world that is completely insects. You ride on insects on the carousel.
I have no reason to doubt them.
I really like it, and even the music that it plays has real insect noise as part of it. And I'm regretting I didn't ride the single chariot, which is what they call the stationary seats, so you can't go up and down. But there's one seat that is a dung beetle pushing a ball of dung, and you sit in the ball of dung.
That's
pretty
funny.
Good. Very charming. Yeah. Very charming. Yeah. I like when people have a sense of humor.
I hope you got some pics for the Insta.
Of course. I'll put a few pics up on the Insta, which is at OOO podcast. Like, ooh, podcast.
Yes.
That's out of office. OOO.
Well, I think this was a great explainer of the Bronx Zoo, and folks should go check it out. Go support their local zoos if they if you have one. And I think it's time for the last stop.
The last stop.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the last stop on this train. Everyone, please leave the train.
Well, Ryan, we're here in the last stop. This is the last segment of the show, the final segment of the show. It's why it's called the last stop. It's my favorite segment. It's your favorite segment. And it's popularly known as the people segment. That's because it's where we come together as an out-of-office community. Whether you live here in North America, whether you're one of our far-flung listeners, whether English is your second language or your 10th language, you are welcome here in the last stop, where we share as a community, particularly you and I share, Ryan. We each bring one thing. It could be anything. It could be a memory. It could be an anecdote. It could be a yarn. Could be an article. Could be a little piece of news, a little tip, maybe a gear review. It has to check one box. It must inspire the spirit of wanderlust within us, even during the workaday week. So, Ryan, I'm going to ask you, as I ask you every episode, do you have a last stop this week?
Kiernan, what do you think the best free restaurant bread in America is?
I can't say that I have a lot of experience. I can't say I've thought much about that, but
yeah,
it's an interesting question. It feels custom built for some social media account, bestbread.co.
Well, Caity Weaver, columnist with The Atlantic, has a big article out this week. And by big, I mean, it took me like 45 minutes to read. So this is like a serious
that's
piece of
really
journalism.
Big on that premise.
And she did a poll, and she went all around the country to really kind of like try to figure out, what is the best free bread that you get before a meal.
The Atlantic still has money to send somebody around the country to try out the best free bread.
It's so funny because I've listened to 2 interviews with her now about this article, and that is a joke that both interviewers have made. Like, how did you get?
Does she give an answer?
Well, she said she couldn't go everywhere, so she just goes to a few places. But it's a really well reported piece. She bounces out the sort of big chains that have like the famous free bread with some smaller places.
That's what you're talking, like Olive Garden. I think of Olive Garden.
Well, Olive Garden is made fun of a lot in the article. Red Lobster comes out really well, as does the Cheesecake Factory.
Is Red Lobster? I think Red Lobster, they're trying to revive it, right?
They are. They have a new CEO, but they give out this free kind of cheddar bread at the beginning of a meal, and it's quite good. I've
never been to a Red Lobster.
There's some funny quotes from serious food people making fun of the Red Lobster suggestions. But the piece is fun because it's a mix of like the history of the American restaurant, like how it started.
Ooh, that sounds great.
And bread was like the first thing that anyone ever served. It was basically bread and beer. When you went to an inn, that was it. That was what you got.
Gosh, get the Ozempic ready. That's a lot of carbs right there.
So when Delmonico's opened in New York, which many people think is the first like real restaurant in America where you can order for multiple items on a menu, the free bread was just part of what customers expected. You had to have bread at a meal. And there's other interesting things I learned from this one restaurant owner in New Orleans is talking about how he doesn't serve the free bread until after the customer's ordered, because he wants them to order at a moment of peak hungriness. And then if they've been eating on some bread before the order, they're thinking in their mind, I don't need to order as much. So he waits for the bread to hit until right after the customers have ordered. But it's a really fun piece. I recommend people read it. I don't want to give away what she discovers is the best bread in America, but it's worth the read to find her journey about what makes good restaurant bread. And it's a lovely piece. And I've linked in the show notes to a paywall free version of it so everybody can read it. And I'll also link to an interview she did it for a podcast that I thought was really fun as well.
Amazing. It sounds great. And does she give a definitive answer?
She gives 2 answers, and one of the places I've eaten at, and I do remember the bread. So I think she did a pretty good job. It's funny. Okay. It's funny. Another thing, she emails all these celebrities who don't want to give their answer, but Stephen King writes back with a very, very, very specific answer of this one steakhouse in Florida. So
wow. Okay. Ryan, do you think we should try to have her on the show?
I would love to get her on the show. She's been doing the rounds. I'll reach out.
Yeah, reach out. Let's see. Let's try to get it while it's hot.
Yeah.
Meaning the bread.
That's one of the key features of good restaurant
if bread. It's going to take 45 minutes to read, she better be talking about the temperatures of the bread. I mean, that's all. There's only so much content here.
You'd be surprised. Did you bring us a last stop this weekend?
I did, Ryan. You and I often joke that maybe our worst episode in the great hallowed halls, the archives of Out of Office, might be the 2 episodes I made us do that I conceived of. These were early days. We were still finding our feet. But what we did was we took our passports and we went through the passports. And again, this was a 2-parter. This is the equivalent of turning a search for bread into a 45-minute read. We had a 2-parter podcast episode where we went through the American passport and we analyzed and discussed how they chose the imagery in the American passport, because each of the pages has landmarks or a moment from history pictured there. Do you remember these episodes?
Yeah, my passport is just huge pictures of the presidents. Is that not yours?
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because that is not how the norm. Ryan's making a joke there because he knows what I'm leading up to, which is that the State Department has just announced that there's going to be a limited edition American passport that you'll only be able to get if you apply through one of the Washington passport agencies, meaning DC agencies. And it's going to feature a very special photo of our current president, Donald Trump. And I assume you've seen the mock-up, Ryan?
I have, but this is only if you get it at the one specific passport place.
Well, that's what makes it limited edition.
Yeah. I mean, what to say.
It's an odd. What to say. It is hard to know what to say if we don't want more 1-star reviews.
When you land at the airport in El Salvador, the first thing you see is a massive image of Bukali greeting you, and that's the kind of vibe that I get from that.
Yeah, you do wonder how it would be perceived if you're going to slightly more unfriendly parts of the world with your Donald Trump passport. How that's going to be shown, how that's going to be taken when you try to check in through passport control.
In Russia, you can skip the line though, so that's useful.
It's odd. I'm surprised. It's not something I'm going to particularly be seeking out. I'm not really due for a refresh. I don't know when yours expires, Ryan.
No, I've got like 6 more years. So,
but it does feel like there's a working group that's just looking for like every place that a picture or the name could be added. And passport pictures was not something that I had foreseen, but I like to think that maybe our episodes had a little something to do with it.
I hope so. I hope we have some influence.
So if we get our hands on one of these special edition ones, we saw mock-ups. We didn't see the official thing. So I don't want to pass judgment about what kind of portrait it is, whether it fits with the other pictures that are available. Are there other special photo pictures in here? We don't know. So we're going to hold off judgment. Big Tent Podcast, classic Romney Democrats here. So I suppose if you like that sort of nonpartisan approach where, we just want to talk about travel and travel related topics, leave us a review, a positive 5-star review on wherever you get the podcast, though Apple would be a great place to leave it. And we'll follow up once we get to actually see the finished product. Maybe, I don't want to promise, but for those of you who just listened to those 2 pods in our analysis and said, boy, I really need a third one, maybe we'll even do a very special episode.
Maybe not. But until then, I'm Ryan Davis.
And I'm Kiernan Schmidt.
And this is Out of Office, a travel passport podcast.
This seat taken.
I thought you were going to say Mark Adams.
Another great early episode. Our first guest, Mark Adams.